you've got about 750 billion rand under management, and that obviously makes you a very big player in the allocation of money in this country. Are you wined and dined on a regular basis by the CEOs of the asset managers down in Cape Town?
Well, there's a fair amount of whining and dining, and I've been trying to cut it back because I'm struggling to lose my weight. But you know, weight is, if you don't watch it, you lose it. So I have to watch it so I don't lose it. There is a fair amount of whining and dining, but for me, it's like 750 billion or 800 billion or 800 million or 800,000 rand. The principles are the same, and sometimes we just overwhelmed by the zeros behind the numbers, but the principles are just the same.
How do you balance returns effectively with the issues of governance and corporate governance, and then also with transformation, which you obviously do champion in South Africa?
Good governance and being sensitive to the environment in which you operate is a necessary condition for good returns. Not sufficient, but a necessary condition. So if you have good governance, chances are you are in a better position to perform well financially and give investors a return. However, where there is bad governance, you can almost be sure that the companies will not perform well. And so that is what informs us. And this has been researched very broadly in the business school environments. And there are lots of reports that show that good governance leads to good returns.
You were quoted as saying, after you had read a draft of King 3, that that report was relatively bland. Can you elaborate?
I think that King 3 could have been bolder in certain areas, but I think that it is still a good report on which we can work.
Where could it have been bolder, in your opinion?
I would rather not go into the details at this stage, but I think that it should have gone further.
Coming back to South Africa and your role in transformation, this is a key area that you do champion. What is it that you want to achieve where transformation is concerned? I mean, you have also been quoted as saying that black economic empowerment is suspicious.
Well, you see, I was having a discussion with an asset manager who's an African American from Kalpas one evening in Cape Town. And he said, "What is this thing all about?" And then I said, you know, if you look at the top 40 companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, there are no African or black CEOs. There are no African executive directors. At that time, the only companies that had executive directors in their companies were MTN and Telkom, and the rest had no African executive directors. They had non-executives and other directors, but they did not have executive directors. And so I said, we need to have the top 40 companies, and generally the companies on the stock exchange, to reflect the demographics of South Africa. Because if we're talking about bringing Africans and blacks in general into the mainstream of the economy, we also have to talk about the top 40 companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And I'll never forget his remark, which actually increased my resolve. And when he said that, you know what you're saying, if Africans are about 80% of the population, it is like a white person in the United States arguing that there has to be more representation of white people in the New York Stock Exchange. Because the vast majority of people in the United States are white and very few African Americans. And he said, you know, this is actually frightening because the proportions are the same. It's like arguing in New York for more
white representation.
And here we are in Africa, in a continent, in a country that has about 80% of the population is African, and we're arguing for representation of black people on the executives and on the boards of the companies listed on the stock exchange. And so that comment by him increased my resolve. And I said, no, it can't be. We cannot continue like this.
What, in your opinion, is transformation all about? How do you see it unfolding in South Africa?
Transformation is about empowerment, not necessarily enrichment, but empowerment. Empowerment means giving people the power to make decisions, to direct the economy in a particular direction, in a particular way, in a particular direction, and to get the economy to reflect who they are. Generally, the question is, if a lot of Africans are not represented in the mainstream of the economy, does this reflect from a philosophical and cultural point of view an African economy? And how do you then bring in if you like, the indigenous people to participate at the highest level in the economy? That is what empowerment for me is about, and not necessarily an all-out sort of a medieval pursuit of enrichment. No.
Is it working, in your opinion, what we've done to date?
We have made some progress. There are black people in key positions. There are black people in powerful decision-making positions with respect to the economy. But I think that after 15 years we could have moved more. And it would be a pity if in another 15 years or 35 years from now, which is 50 years after liberation, we do not have anything to show. We do not have Africans
running the economy effectively,
being the dominant participants in the economy of South Africa.